Jaya Giri Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Jaya Giri Jaya Giri Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vardhana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vardhana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vardhana Jaya Yamuna Tiracharani Jaya Kunjavinari Jaya Yamuna Tiracharani Jaya Kunjavinari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjavinari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Jaya Gopi Jana Jaya Jaya Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Krishna Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhuji's. Prabhuji, Vidura Prabhuji is there, and I think, and there are Mataji also. Hare Krishna to all devotees. So today's Srimad Bhagavatam third canto, 14th chapter, 16 and 17 sloka we'll be covering. We'll start the sloka shortly. Prabhuji, am I audible?
Yes, Prabhu, you are audible.
Okay, no problem. Okay. I will just start the shloka shortly. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadameham Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yutavadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavasya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanitam Tasya Jivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Priyana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Guram Savana Lalita Shri Vishakaitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishvanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpataru Vasukupa Sindhubhya Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gauravaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I share the slokas on the screen. Yeah. So third canto, 14th chapter 16 shloka. Ititam viramaricha कृपणां बहुभाषिणीं प्रत्याहानुनयन वाचा प्रवृद्धांग कश्मलाम. Word to word translation. Iti, thus, tam, unto her, Vira, O hero, Maricha, the son of Marichi, that is Kashyapa, Kashyapa Muni, Krupana, unto the poor, Bhubhashini, too talkative, Pratyaha replied, Anunaya, pacifying, Vacha, by words, Pravruddha, highly agitated, Ananga, lust, Kashmalam, contaminated. Translation by Sri Prabhupada. O hero, Maitreya Rishi is addressing to O hero Vidura, Diti, being thus afflicted by the contamination of lust and therefore poor and talkative, was pacified by son of Marichi in suitable words. Purport by Prabhupada. When a man or woman is afflicted by the lust of sex desire, it is to be understood as simple contamination. Kashyapa was engaged in his spiritual activities, but he did not have sufficient strength to refuse his wife, who was thus afflicted. He could have refused her with strong words, expressing impossibility, but he was not as spiritually strong as Vidura. Vidura is addressed here as a hero because no one is stronger in self-control than devotee of the Lord. It appears that Kashyapa was already inclined to have sexual enjoyment with his wife, and because he was not strong man, he tried to dissuade her only with pacifying words. I will go to next slok also. एषतेऽहं विदास्यामि प्रियं वीरुयदिष्यसि तस्य कामं न काया कुर्यात् सिद्धिस्त्रैवर्गिकी यतः. Word to word translation. Esha, this, te, your request. Aham, I. Vidasyami, shall execute. Priyam, very dear. Biru, O afflicted one. Yat, what? Ichhyasi, you are desiring. Tasya, her. Kamam, desire. No, not. Ka, who? Ka. Kuryat, would perform. Siddhi, perfection of liberation. Traivargiki, three. Yataha, from whom? Translation by Sri Prabhupada. O afflicted one, I shall forthwith gratify whatever desire is dear to you. For who else but you in the source of three perfection of liberation? O afflicted one, I shall forthwith gratify whatever desire is dear to you. For who else but you is the source of three perfections of the liberation? Purport. The three perfections of liberations are religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification. For a conditioned soul, the wife is considered to be the source of liberation because she offers her service to the husband for his ultimate liberation. Conditional material existence is based on sense gratification, and if someone has the good fortune to get a good wife, he is held by the wife in all respect. If one is disturbed in his conditional life, he becomes more and more entangled in material contamination. A faithful wife is supposed to cooperate with her husband in fulfilling all material desires so that he can then become comfortable and execute spiritual activities for the perfection of life. If, however, husband is progressive in spiritual advancement, the wife is undoubtedly shares in his activities, and thus both the wife and the husband profit in spiritual perfection. It is essential, therefore, that girls as well as boys be trained to discharge spiritual duties so that at the time of cooperation, both will be benefited. Training of the boy is brahmacharya, and the training of the girl is chastity. The faithful wife and spiritually a trained brahmachari are a good combination for advancement of human mission. Ititam viramaricha kurpanam bahubhashini pratyahanunayana vacha pravruddhanga kashmalam. This is first shloka. And next shloka is Eshateham vidasyasmi priyam bhiruvyadishyasi tasya kamam nakaya Purya Siddhi Traivirgiki Yataha. So I will pull out the presentation now and we'll get into discussion. Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimade Jayataka Swami Ki Namne Namo Acharya Padaya Nitaya Kripa Padaya Gauravatara Madaya Nagragrama Tarine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swami Ki Namne Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Vishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sali Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, so basically 16 shlokas. So it is basically this is a conversation as just to recap, Maitreya and Vidura, Maitreya Muni and Vidura. There is a conversation on, and Vidura is asking many questions, especially on creations. And last some chapters we are understanding the creation process of creation is being explained by Maitreya. So it starts with the Mahat Tattva and then 24 elements, and then how creation of Lord Brahma, and then further secondary creation by Lord Brahma, which started with Rudraj, four Kumaras, and then other things, seven rishis, Manus, Prajapatis, and and basically these are the Prajapatis, Manus, and Rishis, various Rishis. They are actually helping Brahma to further create the progeny, and this is a way living entities are being created. So this is the our last chapter was basically appearance of Lord Vara. So where he slain down the Hiranyaksha, who was the sort of first demon, and basically he sort of made the earth sink at the bottom of the Garbhodaksha ocean, and Lord Varaha came and rescued the earth and upheld that earth, and he killed the Varaha. Sorry, he killed the Hiranyaksha demon. Now, as a continuation of that, in these earlier shlokas, is being explained like various progenies and creations and Hiranyaksha. So basically how Hiranyaksha also came. Hiranyaksha was a son of Kashyapa and Diti. So this is a sort of conversation between Diti and Kashyapa. So Kashyapa was one of the rishis who was interested with creation, task of creation. So he married many wives basically. I don't remember, but many wives for Kashyapa. Diti, Aditi, and there are many other things. And most of them were from the Daksha Prajapati's daughters. Daksha Prajapati has many daughters, and Diti, Aditi was there. Diti was basically, so the name also suggests Diti means Deti, and then she ultimately got Daityas further, and Aditi means Adityas, demigods. So like that, and there are the and then Kashyapa had a lot of further progenies, children produced from this many wives. So Diti, there are Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashyapa. So these are the further progenies. Okay, so that is a Hiranyaksha. So this shloka is basically telling us how Deti got inflicted with lust and sort of enforced Kashyapa, her husband, to have sex with him. So at a very odd time. So this is a shloka where it is like Diti being thus afflicted by contamination of lust, therefore poor and talkative was pacified by son of Marichi in suitable words. So she's trying to instigate the son of Marichi, that is Kashyapa, and trying to provoke him to satisfy desire. So here Prabhupada writes, Prabhupada is explaining the nature of lust here. It's very dangerous. Like because the DT, she got afflicted, but she sort of influenced ultimately to her husband, who was actually Rishi. So it is not very easy to control this kama or lust. This is what being Prabhupada is stressing here, and that's why Maitreya Muni is addressing Vidura, the hero, because the person who is actually self-control can only be a devotee. So and Vidura was a perfect devotee, hence he was self-controlled. So as a contrast, basically. Maitreya Muni is addressing Vidura as a hero, and while he was saying that even Kashyapa Muni also could not, beyond some limit, actually control the things, because that's the nature of. So, like for example, because lust is something which is, I was just reading somewhere on that. So, lust is something which is very difficult to control. That we know. It is unlike our thirst or hunger, where you are thirsty, you drink water, you're satisfied for some time. And hunger is like that. Okay, you have food and then satisfied. It stops there, at least for that moment. But lust is something. Nature of lust is very uncontrollable. It doesn't stop there. It asks more and more, and that is the nature of. That's why we have to be very careful. And Prabhupada is explaining a little bit more on this, it appears that Kashyap was already inclined. So he was already inflicted with sexual desire, and he ultimately tried to pacify, DT also by various words and all that, and ultimately he was sort of getting into that. So because he was not strong man, that's what Prabhupada writes. He was not strong. He tried to dissuade her only with pacifying words. Instead of saying clearly no, no, because that was the evening time, and it is as per the Vedic this thing. This activity in the evening time is extremely abominable, is what is being mentioned at many places. So Prabhupada mentions he could not, sort of control it. Okay, so this is a shloka, and then next shloka. Kashyapa Rishi is further, Kashyapa is basically further talking to his wife Diti. That is basically, O afflicted one, he is telling you, I shall forthwith gratify whatever desire is here. For who else but you are the source of three perfections of liberation. Now, Prabhupada explains here quite elaborately. So three perfections of liberation: religiosity, economic development, sense gratification. So dharma, artha, kama. Actually, these are the three purushartha. These are three purushartha out of four purushartha. Purushartha basically is which gives you to makes you towards or go towards perfection of life. That is purushartha. So four: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Religiosity, economic development, sense gratification. Dharma means religiosity. Economic development, dharma, artha, kama, sense gratification, and then ultimately moksha. So that is a very basic process given for mass of the people, and in this way they can attain the moksha. Moksha means liberation. Liberation or moksha means actually the liberation from the janma mrityu jara, liberation from the bodily bondage, and situate on the soul platform. That is moksha, but that's not the ultimate thing for Vaishnava. According to our we Vaishnava, basically, that's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is the love of Godhead, love of Krishna. So that is beyond moksha. That is at a very extremely transcendental platform. While this is all slowly at a material platform, and moksha is somewhere in between, and dharmartha kama moksha. So, but still it is called perfection here. Although it is not a finally perfection, but still it is a perfection. Why? Because it's like this. So it is also perfection in the sense that instead of remaining at a very mundane platform or material platform, we have to progress step by step. So this is a step by step methodology, and therefore many people it could be perfection, because that itself is a big thing. See, generally mass of the people might not, especially Kali Yuga, might not be inclined towards spirituality or pure love of God immediately. It will take a lot of time because they have a lot of karma sanchita and a lot of desires, material desire. That's why this material world is made, correct, created by Lord to satisfy our material desires, facilitate satisfying it, but ultimately fed up with that and understand that it is not my ultimate aim of life. Neither it is going to make me satisfied. It's not going to make me happy. That to understand this, and ultimately what is going to make us permanently happy is basically love of God. To understand this, only material creation is being created. So that we have seen in earlier chapter also. So as a part of that, so when there is a creation, there is always knowledge also given. Knowledge for the benefit of human living entities. What is that knowledge? Vedic. Vedas are basically the knowledge to deal with this material world. Right from, so Vedas are dealing with like karma kanda, upasana kanda, jnana kanda. So dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So basically this is a process given. One can follow this process. Ki, okay, dharma means basically dharma is not religion per se. Dharma means basically it is a occupational duty. So since we have got a body, we have to maintain our body. We have got a body and we have to maintain our body. So we have to actually maintain the body. So we have to do our some stipulated duty based on our karmas. We have to do our stipulated duties to maintain the body. That is dharma. So that is a occupational duty. So one may be engineer, one may be doctor, one may be brahmana, one may be whatever may be the case, like various occupations. So we have to do our duty faithfully with the attitude of serving the Lord. So that's a given. That is given that all our occupational duties also ultimately has to. That is basically the karma or vikarma. And vikarma is prohibited activity. Akarma is basically doubling all our fruits, our activities to Lord, so that you doesn't get affected. So dharmartha kama moksha is a very step-by-step process given, recommended by Shastras for a general mass of people. Although at a very finer level, at a very ultimate transcendental level, that is not a perfection. That's what at many places in Bhagavatam, Dharma Artha Kama Moksha is not the final methodology what we mentioned. Even Prahlad Maharaj says, and many devotees say that Dharma Artha Kama Moksha is primitive, but of course one should follow, because why it is perfection, at least to majority people, because it will make you progress towards transcendental plane slowly, because we are full with desires. Okay, we cannot suddenly, majority of us will not be able to directly take up love of Godhead or get into that transcendence. It's not possible. So that's why it's a balancing act. Like, okay, you have got body, you have got material desires, but you should know that ultimately aim is the Lord Krishna. So you start slowly satisfying our desires, but start taking up the spiritual or devotion or all yoga also. That is the whole purpose. So do your dharma, do your occupational duty. Dharma artha means you have to earn money to maintain the family. Why you have to earn money? Basically, the family life is a driving force for earth, correct, that we know, our whole economy. What is a driving force at a very fundamental level? Driving force for economy is basically, that's what Prabhupada mentioned in some of his lectures, and that was a survey done by some financial experts. Like, what is the basic driving force for the earth or economy? Is basically the family life. So dharma artha. So why family life? Because we want to enjoy the senses. We have what desires. We want to enjoy those senses, all five senses, and especially the sense of kama. So that is why that family life also is sort of regulated way. It's very regulated way to enjoy the sense. Instead of getting into unrestricted sense enjoyment. Because if we get into unrestricted sense enjoyment, uh, obviously it will lead to a lot of Varna Sankara population and collapse of the whole human civilization, because human life is not meant for unrestricted sense enjoyment. Human life is meant for achieving the Of course, step by step, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, and ultimately, next step is fifth purushartha, we can say, fourth purushartha, then fifth purushartha, ultimately devotion. That is a step by step process. So basically, dharma, artha, kama. This is a very. It comes into a very one box very clearly that you have to do your occupational duties to maintain your kama. Kama means desires, material desires. You need to have money or economic condition and all that paraphernalia, and that is a basically tool. And so why it is still called perfection, because that will ultimately take, if it is perfectly followed, if it is regulated way followed, if we follow the regulative principles, and ultimately we can head towards the moksha or liberation, and even beyond moksha also we can head towards the devotion. That is why this dharma artha, kama, moksha are very important, that way speaking. The majority of people are going to follow that varna sama dharma. This system again created, social system created for this only. Ultimately, majority of people will not be able to control the lust, material desires, sensual desires. So there is a licensed way or very formal way of doing, allowing this restricted enjoyment in a very restricted way, and in this way, let the society of all the people slowly go towards the transcendental platform. That is the whole purpose of Varnasrama, and Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha is a very step-by-step process mentioned. So that's why we should understand that there is also perfection in one sense, because it makes you go towards perfection, but although it's very slow. And even Prahlad Maharaj says that if your ultimate aim of achieving the devotion of the Lord is not achieved, then Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha is useless. That is, there is no use of doing. So even moksha is also that way speaking. It is not ultimate aim. So dharmartha, especially dharmartha kama, these are not the what is the ultimate aim of this. Ultimate aim is ultimately to serve Lord Vishnu. Ultimately, we have to do that. But if it is not done, and if we end up doing something else other than devotion of the Lord, then it is the whole purpose is defeated. That is what Srimad Bhagavatam in 7th canto Prahlad Maharaj said. So we should be we should understand very clearly that dharma, artha, kama, moksha is fine. It is a step by step. It's a step towards the perfection of life. Perfection life is liberation, and ultimate perfection is devotion. And we should understand and regulate our life. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha should be regulated. Unrestricted dharma, artha, kama, moksha means we are going to get engrossed into that activity. That is exactly the things are happening nowadays, in especially Kali Yuga. People are too much engrossed into dharma, artha, kama, moksha in such a way that they are so much engrossed that the whole purpose of this system, varnasrama, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, is lost sometimes and many times. That is why we should not lose the objective. Objective is to ultimately serve Lord Krishna. Once that objective is, till that objective is intact, then whatever do under dharma, artha, kama, moksha is going to benefit us, and that's good. That's a good thing. That is ultimately leading to perfection. So Prabhupada mentions here important, one of the another important point is, I'm just reading it again. If one is disturbed in his, sorry, I'll just read an earlier sentence. Conditional material existence is based on self gratification. If someone has the good fortune to get a good wife, he is helped by the wife in all respect. If one is disturbed in his conditional life, he becomes more and more entangled into material contamination. A faithful wife is supposed to cooperate with her husband in fulfilling all desires so that he can then become comfortable and execute spiritual activity for perfection of life. Okay. So Prabhupada is mentioning very clearly how the say Grihasthashram is husband, wife, and family members. So husband and wife is the key center. And there is a clear-cut role, very clear-cut role Prabhupada is writing very clearly that wife's duty, the lady or wife duty is basically to support husband in the spiritual activities. Now, wife should not be seen as an object of material enjoyment, neither by husband, or even she also should not see husband as a object of sense enjoyment or fulfilling machine for her material desire. Of course, there will be some fulfillment of desire. That is the whole purpose. That without that also we will not be able to continue properly, because that's our problem. Due to our karmas, due to our karma sanchitas, we have so many desires. So it is difficult to stop this at a moment suddenly. But to some extent, in regulated way, these are very important. If you violate, if you forcefully try to suppress the desires, also is a problem. That's why Grosthashrama is very clear, and husband wife, they should be sort of co-helping each other. Wife's duty is very clearly here. Why this is mentioned here? Because Diti, while being wife of the very exalted personality of Kashyapa, she is not actually sort of, she is not behaving as a perfect wife. She is actually inflicting him into lusty desires at the odd time. So it is not, it's sort of unregulated way. That's the whole problem. So otherwise, in the regulated way, that's fine. So what Prabhupada writes here is she should, wife should satisfy the husband's desires and vice versa also. And in this way, but it should be in a regulated way. That is the duty. And that's the whole point being stressed Prabhupada, by Prabhupada in this purpose, that it's all about having all this proper execution of this, our duties, our material enjoyment, all execution should be proper and in a regulated way. That's the whole, point is being stressed by Prabhupada. The moment we tend to get into non-regulated way or cross the limit, then it gets into, we get attached to more and more with the lust. That's the problem. Problem is, like for example, if you are attached too much to eating, it is going to make you body sick. It is going to make you work more and more to have that luxurious eatables, earn more money. Earn more money means you are going to have more work, hard work, and in that process, we are going to struggle, and we are going to lose the main objective of the dharmartha kama moksha. Purushartha is basically achieving the Lord Krishna, or attaining the Lord Krishna. So that is the whole point should not be missed. That's why any activity, um, um, excessive activity, pratyahar means any activity which is too much excessive is not good. So, for example, we are seeing the eating, or if you get attached to too much, sensual desires and go beyond extramarital affairs, then that is going to make us in trouble. That is the whole society currently suffering from. Of course, in India, being a very our Hindu Sanatan culture still there, this is still not so much, but of course, it has started coming with Western culture, and that's becoming a problem here also. But outside, it is rampant. So, so any activity which is excessively targeting the sense enjoyment, material sense enjoyment, is going to make us trouble. How? Because you need to earn money, or you need to have lot of resources to satisfy those desires, and desires are not going to get satisfied. Hence you are going to hanker more and more, hankering and lamentation, hankering and lamentation, and this is a vicious circle. And what starts that vicious circle? It's the unrestricted sense enjoyment starts this vicious circle. But if it is restricted, this vicious circle is avoided to major extent. Correct? So that's very easy to understand. There's nothing very hi-fi science we're talking about here. It's very common sense. We experience this in day-to-day life. That if we are attached to something, suppose somebody is attached to position. Oh, I want to have big position in company or big position in society. He has to struggle so hard. Is it not? We are seeing in day-to-day life so much big struggle. In fact, nowadays even earning basic things also is leading to struggle. That's the unfortunate part. But whatever may be the case, it's a struggle, and we are finding difficult to maintain our minimum time required for devotion, which is the main purpose of life. That is becoming almost secondary or sometimes getting ignored, and we are getting engrossed into this so-called external religious activities, which is not the real thing. Okay, so that is the whole purpose. So nowadays, if you see, that whole training is getting lost, right? So suppose daughters, or I mean, when I say daughter, basically husband and wife. So the boy, they are not training the boy because the whole varnashrama system is getting collapsed or almost collapsed. The boys are not trained into brahmacharya properly. This are, so it's not only, of course, another point. Wife should be trained to support husband. She should be chaste to her husband. Means she should only, serve him and always be chaste to him. So loyal to him. Of course, reverse also is true. It doesn't mean that husband is free to do anything. No, not that way. Both are, but especially wife, woman, if she is not chaste, that creates major problem. And then there is another duty of husband also. Both have got duties and both need to reciprocate. Okay, what is the husband duty, man's duty? Mainly to maintain the brahmacharya. Maintain brahmacharya means have restricted life, sex life. So, and then don't get involved into unnecessary sensual activities and gets into trouble. So that is the purpose of, so that brahmacharya also is not getting taught. There is no syllabus, or there is no focus on teaching all this chastity to the woman, or brahmacharya to the main boys. So as a result of that, people are confused, and that's why there are so many divorces, so many issues with you know chastity related issues, loyalty related issues, and family life is disturbed. So it's very important. We should understand, it's very common sense, that any activity which is excessive, for example, marriage life, where the people are just coming together for sense enjoyment, only for that purpose, marriages are getting broken. The earlier divorce was very seldom in India. Right now divorces are becoming huge, while western countries, absolutely there is no system of marriage. If it is there, it is very temporary, and some places of course it is good there also, I'm not saying that. But India also, we can see earlier, because people were trained properly, marriage was intact. And we can see this personally in our life. The If you compare very neutral way, in a very unbiased way, the 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 standard of marriage life, what we live now, and what we earlier generation, grandfather, great grandfather generation, whatever you could have observed, there is a huge difference. That time, at least what I can say based on my experience, what I have been seeing is basically the grandfathers and all that generation, they were very peaceful. The needs were limited, no major issues. They were not, definitely not getting into too much sense enjoyment. We can observe their life was very simple, agriculture, basic thing, and after some basic sense enjoyment, and then they will devote majority time for this liberation or devotion, yoga. So they will spend that much time very clearly. They could have spent, they could spend that. We have observed that. Now, if you see our condition at this generation, it's very difficult because we have to struggle so much work, and so many distractions. You go outside, step up outside, there are billboards, there are so many different advertisements. Internet is a chaos now, if it is not used properly. Now you can see so much distractions, so much disturbance. People are not mentally disturbed. You can observe this on the going on road also while driving. People are so much disturbed. So that tells that why? Because very simple. It is Shloka is telling, Prabhupada is explaining, we can observe this very carefully and we can experience this. We can observe this very carefully, that earlier generations were much more better. Now things are becoming topsy-turvy. Why? Because there is no training on the purpose of life, no training about Vedic knowledge or Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. And hence, as a result of that, people are united temporarily for sense enjoyment. The moment it is not satisfied, they are breaking off. So that is a big problem, and then that leads to the it's a repeat in the life, because the main purpose is lost. The main purpose is to serve Lord Krishna, get a devotion get at a devotion platform. The main purpose is lost. So that is this is definitely the chaos. Prabhupada mentions in this purport that nowadays it's becoming very difficult because they are not trained properly. We can see this. So this is a crux why things are very topsy-turvy, especially marriage life and all that, because no knowledge and no education, and that's why it is a so much random thing. So Bhagavatam, with these two shlokas, what we can learn is basically restricted sense enjoyment is important. Especially majority of the people have to have sense enjoyment because as a body, we are not at that higher platform. Of course, whoever goes to directly spiritual platform, they don't have to follow dharma of the moksha. They are directly there. That is, there are many instances like that. But majority mass of people, we should have these restrictions in the life, follow the rules and regulations, and purpose of these rules regulation, purpose of dharma of the moksha is to attain Vishnu ultimately. What we should keep in mind, and this has to, of course, Prabhupada has given us the big home where we can study, learn all this under the guidance of our senior spiritual masters, definitely. So we are very lucky that way that we are under the umbrella of Prabhupada's this thing where we understand this quite easily now by reading Prabhupada books and understanding so much philosophy from various senior devotees. So we are very lucky. But otherwise, if we are not, majority people still don't know what is the problem. They don't understand philosophy. They don't have access to philosophy. So we should call ourselves very fortunate that we are under the shelter of Prabhupada and his disciples, so that we learn this easily and we can mold our life in a regulated way and ultimately attain the devotion. Devotional platform is the summary we can learn from these two shlokas with a live example. Is what I wanted to share with all of your devotees. So thanks for listening patiently, and I will invite Vidura Prabhu to say some additional words and correct if something to be added, and then we can go to question answer sessions also. Hare Krishna.
Nothing specific, Prabhu. I think we covered it. Basically, particularly in our moment, we focus on devotion. While this is the process, as these two verses, of course, explain like how husband and wife actually help each other in taking up devotional service. So the idea is to, as you rightly said, to the definition of moksha here is reach our constitutional position, serving the Lord, and how practically we navigate. I think that's nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments from the devotees? They are welcome. Santosh Prabhu, any comments, questions? Of course, I don't know. Okay. So, okay, Prabhuji, I think if there are no comments, then we can close the session if everybody is okay with that. So, Kantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jai Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा। प्रभु जी, माता जी, आप सभी को दंडवत प्रणाम। माता जी, प्रभु जी।